Let me show you how easy it is to arm knit more than one color into a giant yarn blanket. Don't go away. Hi there, I'm Anya from Peony and Time, and today I want to show you how easy it is to arm knit with more than one color in the giant yarn blanket. So in my last video, I showed you how to easily take apart a giant yarn project and even how to make a giant yarn ball with a center pull so that it's all nicely organized and ready for your next giant yarn project. That's a great way to get 2 or more projects for the price of 1. So in that video, I took apart a giant yarn Christmas tree skirt, and now I'm going to show you how to re-knit that up into a striped candy cane blanket. Let's get started. Before we get started, take off any rings with sharp edges that might snag your yarn. Okay, here's the center pull yarn ball I showed you how to make in the last video. Now measure out about 10 to 12 feet for the long tail cast on. Make a simple slip knot by twisting the yarn like this, reaching through that loop, pulling this yarn through, and snugging it down so that it fits comfortably on your wrist. Now take the yarn tail, twist a loop like this, reach through, grab the live yarn, the yarn going to your yarn ball, pull that yarn through, and again snug it down so that it fits comfortably on your wrist. And again, twist the yarn tail, reach through the loop, grab the live yarn, and pull it back through that loop and snug it down just so that it fits comfortably on your wrist. And one more time, twist the yarn tail, reach through the loop, grab the live yarn, pull it back through, snug it down just so it fits comfortably on your arm. Okay, continue casting on until you have 18 stitches total, including the original slip knot. Now to knit the first row, take this first stitch, reach through the front, and then pull the yarn through from back to front. Now take this next stitch. If it's twisted, untwist it so that it's flat like this. Then again, reach through the front of the stitch and pull the yarn through back to front. Grab the next stitch, make sure it's not twisted, then reach through the front and pull the yarn through back to front. Now continue this across the rest of the row. When knitting with giant yarn, I like to work back and forth across the front of the project instead of flipping it back and forth from the right side to the wrong side like you do with traditional knitting. So when you get to the end of this first row, we'll work back across the front just like this. Now that you finished row 2, it's time to add in your second color. Put the new cream-colored yarn behind this first red yarn. Grab this stitch that we would have knit next, but instead of using the red yarn, we'll pull the cream yarn through like this. Make sure you leave enough of a yarn tail to securely weave in later. Okay, continue knitting across the row with the cream yarn for row 3, and then back across for row 4. Now we're going to switch back to our first color. I'm going to pull this red yarn around like this so it's easy to have the red yarn come up from behind like this. This helps to keep the color changes looking clean. Now you'll just continue switching back and forth between the 2 colors, knitting 2 rows in one color and then switching and knitting 2 rows in the next color. Keep this up until you've used up your first color. Then knit 2 final rows in your second color. Make the stitches in this very last row just a little larger than the stitches you have been making, because this is going to be your cast off row. So once you finish that final row, go back to the side where you began knitting that final row. Grab the last 2 stitches here and pop this last stitch over the stitch next to it. Then continue that process across the row. When you only have 1 stitch left, pull the end of the yarn through this stitch and snug it down to tie off your work. And now it's time to weave in all the ends. Now, since this cream yarn end is still pretty long, I would trim it down to maybe 12 inches or so and then weave that in. But I'm actually not going to do that right now because I am going to pull this blanket back apart after this tutorial and knit it back up into a tree skirt for my friend. Okay, so make sure you get all 4 ends woven in. If an end is super short like this one, you can always needle felt it into place to make sure that it stays put. And you're done! How beautiful is this? All right, thanks so much for watching. I hope that was fun and helpful. I'd love to hear in the comments below if you've made a giant yarn project that you have loved. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye.